Hello, this is Neustroev, and in this video I'm going to share with you how I drew the game against Michal Krasenkow. This is a grandmaster with a FIDE rating 2620. He is a Soviet legend, but now he's playing for Polish Chess Federation. He was a Polish champion for many years, and if I'm not mistaken, he won this cup 13 times. And when I was in Corsica, I played a game against him in the first round. Let me show the game. I was black and he played d4, d5, c4, c6. This is how I usually play Slav defense, knight f3, knight f6. If knight c3, then I wanted to play e6, semi-Slav defense. If you want to learn more about semi-Slav, I have a course, so you can just send me a private message. I will explain where to take it. However, in this position, Michal played queen b3. This is a tricky move, and black has to play properly. Of course, I didn't know how to play after this move, but then I realized that when I analyzed Catalan, I saw a5 move. Not in this exact position, but a little bit later. But for some reason, I decided not to apply this variation with a5 move. I decided to play simpler and more solid. This is what I thought. Okay, anyway, here I played e6. This is a possible move. Of course, something like queen c7 doesn't work at all. Then just knight to c3 attacking the pawn. As for queen b6, typically a good move, but then c5 can be played. Moreover, he can first start with knight c3, bishop f5, c5 then. Queen c7, bishop f4, I can't take the bishop, because b7 is hanging, and then I lose my rook. Queen c8, then white is slightly better, so this position is playable too. But e6 is more solid variation. g3, now he switches to Catalan, knight b to d7, bishop g2, bishop e7, castle, castle, bishop g5, and in this position there are two good moves, a5 and b5. And I analyzed the a5 move, and this is what I was going to play against Catalan if someone plays queen b3 there. But at that moment, I thought that maybe a5 should be played not in this exact position, and maybe I just forgot something, and if I play a5, it can be a mistake. But at this moment, I knew that b6 is a solid move, and I can allocate my bishop to b7, and with these three pawns in the center, my position is really solid. Okay, let me show these two options. If I will play in this position against maybe a lower rated player, I would play b5 or a5. For example, let's start with a5. a5, knight c3, a4. What's the idea of this sacrifice? If he takes, then we can capture on c4. And if queen takes, b5, queen c6, rook a4, winning a piece. He has a compensation of 3 pawns for a piece, but after rook b4, we win at least one. So that after d takes on c4, queen c4 doesn't work, he has to retreat, but then b5, knight retreats, and just knight d5, simplifying the position, which is now approximately equal. If after a4 he moves to c2 immediately, it doesn't make any difference. We take on c4, knight a4, b5. And actually in this position it's difficult to find another move. Instead knight a4, because I can play b5 and just get extra pawn. So f5 is a solid continuation. You may also find more about this move in my course about Catalan. Actually, this course wasn't released yet, but it's going to be released very soon. b5 is another option. What to do? This is how I force him to decide to do something with this pawn. For example, he takes, then queen takes. Otherwise, the position is quite symmetrical. I mean, the pawn structure, and white doesn't really have any benefits. Well, maybe rook c1 is another move that can be played. But if queen b5, rook b8, and I take the b2 pawn, and if queen takes on a7, I win the e2 pawn. The main idea is that the bishop on g2 doesn't participate in the game. So both options are playable, but I played b6. This is a solid move. Rook d1, bishop b7, knight c3. This is the key moment of the game, one of the key moments of the game. Later, when I analyzed this game, I noticed that Michal Krasenkow already played this position with another grandmaster, and that guy played rook c8, which is considered to be the most solid move. Because one of the ideas here is to play c5. Maybe this is the main idea. To play c5, slightly open the position, simplify it, and try to restrict his pieces. But at the same time, if we choose the position with hanging pawns, like d5 and c5, we should keep more minor pieces on the board. Okay. So rook c8 should be played, but I decided to take on c4. I didn't know any theory about this position at that moment. Queen c4. And then my plan was to play b5. Queen retreats to b3, and then I play b4. I'm not attacking the knight actually, but I am planning to do it. Also, I wanted to play a5. Here, knight a4, one of the best moves, and after this move I played queen a5 with the idea to get rid of the d file. I mean, to get my queen out of the d file, to get rid of the pressure there, with the idea to play c5, because my queen from a5 also supports the c5 square. Rook a c1, and then I play c5. Bishop f6. If now I take on f6 with one of my minor pieces, then he may win a pawn on c5. That's why I took with the g-pawn. My pawn structure is slightly ruined, but if I can simplify the position, then nobody cares. After the game, I talked to Michal Krasenkow, and I thought that I was expecting him to play knight e5 in this position, and he told me that he didn't analyze this move at all. I don't know why, but as I see, this is one of the tactical ideas that should be analyzed first in such position. So, bishop attacking bishop, knight attacking knight. Here I should play bishop g2. If king g2 shouldn't be played because he loses on e5. Knight d7, my rook is hanging. But then I could play c4. And here if queen c4, I take on a4, knight f8, bishop d5, queen moves, and he loses this knight on f8. However, after knight e5, bishop g2, then knight d7, c4, he could just play this move. And then I have to play with my rook. king g2, rook d7. I think the position was okay for black, but at that moment I was afraid that I could blunder some intermediate moves and lose a pawn, or maybe even more. Well, actually, I would say white is slightly better because of so many weaknesses, like c4 pawn, the pawn structure on the king side. However, I don't really understand what white should do. Maybe a3 should be played to ruin the pawn structure, to trade these two pawns, which can be a potential threat for white. Okay, this is what I expected him to play, but he just took on c5. And yes, taking on c5 was better than knight e5 that I analyzed. Of course, I analyzed knight c5 too, and at that moment I was thinking it's fine. I took pawn takes, and here, of course, bishop c5 should be played. But I don't remember what I was afraid of in these variations. I just didn't like something. I play rook c8, rook a to c8 to attack the pawn on c5. So this pawn dies anyway. What do you think? What's the best move for white in this position? What white can do? Well, he is better, of course. Or what can he do to exploit his advantage? The best move here is knight d4, but the main idea is to get rid of this bishop pair, because my bishop on b7 is better than the bishop on g2. And if he trades them, then he can get more advantage. For example, bishop g2, king g2, rook c5. Bishop c5 can be played too. But if bishop c5, knight e6, f takes e6, queen e6, king moves and rook comes to the 7th rank, with the idea to get his queen to f5, threatening a checkmate. If I play rook c7, then what do you think white can do? Just rook c4, getting his rook to h4, and I can't coordinate with my pieces to protect the king, so white is winning here. And of course, if Michal would find knight d4, he would also notice knight takes on e6. That's why the best move is rook c5. Oh, first bishop g2, king g2, and then rook takes on c5, but then knight c6. This is a big problem. Queen c7, then he takes on e7, and finally I lose a pawn. This position is winning for white. However, with small chances for black to get a draw, but I don't believe that I can successfully play against a grandmaster in this position. He played rook d7. This is a kind of attractive move, but I would say it's a mistake. Bishop d5, of course. Bishop d5 is a solid move. However, even here, if he sacrifices the rook, he could get some advantage. c6, bishop c5. Then I can't win a pawn on c6, so I take this one. And of course, here white has a compensation for the sacrificed exchange. He has two pawns and bishop for a rook. And in this position, he is better. However, maybe he couldn't calculate this line deeper, or he thought that he can find a better move. Anyway, he decided not to sacrifice the exchange. As for me, I was afraid of this move, rook takes on d5. And I was thinking that all other moves played by black are fine for me. I can successfully equalize. Well, he decided to play simpler. Queen e3, bishop c5, queen h6. And this is where he blundered. Queen b6, this is how I play, attacking the f2 pawn. And the only way to protect the pawn on f2 is to play rook f1. Again, after the game, I analyzed this position with Michal, and he told me that before playing queen e3 and queen h6, he analyzed queen b6. But then, eventually, he forgot about this move, queen b6 with a temper, and decided to choose this line. And actually, yeah, queen b6 is a really good move that equalizes the position. What he should do? Rook f1 is the only move, and it was played in the game because e3 or... yeah, e3 is the only other move, but it doesn't work. What do you think? How black can play in this position? If you want, you may pause this video and try to find a winning tactical strike for black. However, I think it's really obvious. Bishop takes on e3. He's 2 pieces ahead. If he takes my rook, I take his queen. If he takes on e3, I trade the queens and then take his rook. He's down the exchange and he loses a few pawns on the second rank. So that rook f1, rook fd8 to get rid of this rook in my camp. Actually, I was looking how to trap this rook, but didn't find. This is the best move according to the computer. Queen d8 to protect on f6. He pins me bishop to f8, attacking the queen with the idea to play bishop g7. He goes queen f4. Oh, I was expecting queen h4, but they are similar. Queen f4. And here I think I played the most solid move. It was again a critical solution of this game. So what to do? I have a bishop pair. My f6 pawn is under the pressure. If I play bishop g7 now, he can play e4, attacking my bishop. So I should play somehow to get rid of the pin. Maybe queen e7. Maybe that was the second move I analyzed. But then I found that if I play queen c7 and he takes on f6, this is what happened in the game. And actually, after he took on f6, I was really surprised because I considered queen takes on f6 a bad move. Actually, now when I analyze with a computer, queen f6 is not a big mistake, it's just a small inaccuracy. So bishop g7, queen goes to h4, and of course I can't really take the pawn on b2 because then h7 is a weakness. But queen c2, this is a really good move, and that's why I played queen c7 and bishop g7. The rook is hanging, I can also take the pawn. Rook d2. Okay, in this position it's black who is already better, and I can play for a victory, but I was already in time trouble. That's why I decided that the best thing that I can do against such a strong grandmaster is to force a draw. And I played queen c1. What do you think? What should I do to play for a victory in this position? Another move that black can play is queen b1. I analyzed it too, but decided to force a draw. Bishop f1. Then, for example, a5. b3. To protect the pawn on a2. Then h6, with the idea to play rook c1. Because if I play rook c1 immediately, Then he has a perpetual check. Queen d8 and queen g5. If king goes here, then queen f6, and I have to play king g8 back. Bishop g7 loses the game. King g8, and then we just repeat the position many times. So I can't play rook c1 immediately, but after h6, I make an escape square for my king, so that I'm threatening with rook c1. h3, rook c1, and knight h2. But then just queen e4, trading the queens. f3, bishop b1. What can I say in this position? So if I decide to choose queen b1 instead of queen c1, I have to calculate 8 moves and then understand that this is a winning position for black. However, it's not obvious. But here, because of the bishop pair, I can take one of his pawns on the queen side and then create a distant passed pawn. This is a winning plan for me. But it was difficult to do when you have just 4 minutes left on your clock. That's why queen c1. Bishop f1, bishop f3, then rook d8. Yeah, rook d8. And this is how he can make a draw. Well, not now, because I control the g5 square. Then e takes on f3, and then I took on b2. Now he may play queen g5. It's likely to be a draw. Of course, if I block with my bishop, then queen d8. If I block with my queen, I think my queen becomes more passive, while his queen is quite active, and moreover, with bishops of opposite color, it should be a draw. But he played bishop d3, giving me another chance to play for a victory. However, at that moment, I was already hoping for a draw, because just a few minutes left on my clock, and just decided to take on a2, because if I take this pawn, then, and he doesn't make a draw by a perpetual check, it's only me who is playing for a victory. For example, then he played queen g5, bishop g7, then we repeated the position a few times, and he called the arbiter and claimed a draw. I agreed to a draw, but we played in Corsica, and at that tournament it was illegal to agree for a draw. If you want a draw, you should get equal position, no, it shouldn't be an equal position, it should be drawn position, where it's obvious that no one can win. And the best way to get a draw is just to repeat the position. Here, he is forced to give this perpetual check, because otherwise I can promote my pawns on the queen side, and I have nothing to do but to block these checks with my bishop. So then the game ended in a draw. Let's go back. So here bishop d3 is played. What do you think I should do to be able to play for a victory? I don't really remember if I analyzed this move. Maybe not. However, at this moment we both were in time trouble. He had about maybe 90 seconds, and in my clock it was about maybe 1 minute. Here I could play h6. Now queen g5 doesn't work. I just control this square. For example, what's then? Queen e8, queen e2, queen e4, threatening a checkmate. f5, queen d4, queen d5. I sacrifice the pawn on f5, then I can get with my king to the queen side. Of course, these moves are not obligatory, but this is what can typically happen in this endgame. If he allows me to get to b2, then I can promote my pawns like this. And then a1. However, in this position, because of the time trouble, I think everyone could win. It's quite easy to blunder something when you have just a few seconds or maybe 1 or 2 minutes left on your clock. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. If you have any ideas about this game or you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. I'm going to upload new videos, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, join my chess.com group and Facebook group. Don't miss our webinars and simuls. Thank you for your attention.